Welcome to the Lesbian Peep Show. Peep Show.
Welcome to Lesbian Peep Show. My guest today is Kelsey Rhodes. We just met and we have friends in common. We go to gay together in the general geographic area. I would love for you to introduce yourself however you would like to.
Erin, thank you so much for having me. Yeah, I'm Kelsey Rhodes. I use she, her pronouns. And by day, I'm the communications director at Physicians for Reproductive Health. So we're an abortion advocacy organization. We specifically are working on amplifying the voice of evidence and reason from physician advocates across the country. And so I get to go to work and teach abortion providers how to use their public advocacy platforms for good. And I've been doing that for the last 9 years, which is amazing. Then I had a lot of life change this year. And I was really thinking about how to use my new time being a new single queer to tap into community. And so I got involved in an organization called Self-Managed Abortion, Safe and Supported. And they're really committed to making sure that people in states that have abortion bans, abortion restrictions, they know that they have other options, right? People are self-managing their care. And we want to make sure that people have the information that they need to do that safely and informed. And so I now have been hosting these virtual Zoom sessions here in community where folks can get the information that they want about how medication abortion works. Outside of that, let's see, I do a lot of writing. I have a Substack where I write about queer shit all the time. I get to do some freelance essay writing and reporting on a case-by-case basis. Yapping is basically just my full-time job. So I'm happy to be here yapping with you.
Awesome. Okay, I love abortion. I do. I've had an abortion. And so that experience shifted me from I don't know, passively distancing yourself as I would never myself want to have an abortion, but I believe in that choice for other sluttier women, that kind
Yeah,
of
stigma, right?
It's so weird. Yeah, I'm pro-abortion and have had an abortion. It was not a really positive experience, and it allowed me to be self-directed in my life and in a way that was really important to me at the time. So I'm a big fan of abortion. I'm excited to talk about that as well. But let's talk about you being gay. So you and I share that you were with a man for 10 years who you were married to, and then you hauled with an AFAB person. Tell me.
Yeah, it was quite the saga. I lived so many queer tales all in one. Yeah, so I don't know. I grew up having a lot of girl crushes. I was a ballet dancer. I was ogling all of the cuties in their tights and leotards. I was truly just living a little queer dream as a young person.
Did you know that?
I'd be kissing girls when I was growing up.
Okay.
I was and I just let that be what it was of I'm growing up, I'm exploring. I don't know what's real, what's not. I had supportive family. I grew up in California. I did not have a politically hostile environment towards gay people. I knew very firmly that I believed in all forms of queer justice, right? California, when I was growing up, was going through the whole marriage equality thing. It was a large topic that was on all of our hearts and minds all the time. And I also, at the same time, was also kissing, exploring, having sexual interactions with men. And I unfortunately, which I think is a common experience with a lot of AFAB people, had some less than ideal, less than consensual experiences with men that really, I think, fucked with my own definition of what was healthy and safe sex. I then just kind of lowered the bar so low for how I thought I could and should be treated by men that I met this amazing person who's my ex-husband. We had this amazing friendship. And I was like, wow, look at this person who is my friend. Look at this person who is respecting me and who appreciates my consent. This must be it. Even though I had had all of these kind of more, I don't know, exciting, curious, pleasurable experiences with AFAB people growing up, I really just fell into some of the compulsory heterosexuality, heteronormativity expectations of what life should look like. And so I felt like I was just following the steps. And that's one thing about heteronormativity is it does give people steps. And sometimes we want those to cling on to, I don't know, feel like we're doing it right in big air quotes, whatever the fuck right means. And so I did the checklist that the world told me to do. Rented a house with him. We got the cutest dog in the whole wide world. We got engaged. We got married. We had a big wedding. And every step of the way, I kept saying in my head, when I do the next thing, that's when I'll be happy. When I do that next big check mark in the checkbox of heteronormativity, finally, then I will feel like a whole person who has my life together. And unfortunately, that kind of marker kept moving and moving and moving. The goalpost kept moving because I wasn't in the right race. I was not in the right place. And even though I had built this like amazing tight friendship with my now ex-husband, life just didn't have that like sparkly magic texture. And then my most recent ex just fell right into my life. This was an AFAB person who I had a lot of kind of similarities with, a lot of passions, a lot of shared advocacy interests. And we ended up starting a 4-year really amazing adventure together. And I was so afraid to get divorced. I was so afraid about what that meant for public perception of my life. I know that my family was also concerned about that. Divorce stigma is just so damn real in terms of like not wanting to look like kind of the ugly duckling child or whatever in the family. And how I've described that revelation when I met my first big queer love was that it was like I had been operating in this one house, right? If my mind and my life was a house, I knew it by heart. I was able to walk through the kitchen and the bedroom and the rooms and the living room and the family room. I knew it. It was comfortable. And then I met my most recent ex, and it was as though suddenly the lights went on in a hallway that I never fucking knew existed. It was a whole other part of my body's ability to operate, to experience pleasure, to be able to relate to myself and other people, to dream about future. And as soon as that light went on, there was no turning it off. I couldn't go back to my life with my ex-husband and feel fulfilled because there was this whole other organism, shape, like whole other universe that was being illuminated for me. And that in and of itself was motivation enough to prioritize my happiness, prioritize his ultimate happiness of having someone who could show up for him wholly. And yeah, and so then I fully did the lesbian stereotype and I U-hauled from California to Kansas City. I think I moved in on the 3rd date.
Okay, I want to walk back a smidge. So, can you take me to when your like, oh fuck moment was? Was it just upon seeing this person? Was it in deeper conversation? Did you get like a pinky touch? Like, what happened when you were like, wow, this has just changed my life?
Yeah, so we met at a work event. To set the scene, it was February 2020. We are on COVID Eve, my friend. Like the world is about to shut down.
And none of us knew.
I'm in New York City at this work thing. We meet. And I think in retrospect, the sign was, we just kept walking around the city all night crying. It was this like deep emotional connection that just happened immediately. As I already shared, was partnered at the time. And I felt like I had some pretty clear boundaries around what I would and would not do in this moment. But what embarrassingly happened was we hugged with all of our clothes on for like 5 minutes straight. I now refer to it as the sexy hug. Like it was just, shoot, I didn't know I could feel things like this when hugging someone fully clothed. And, like, I'm glad that I learned that my body works in that way. And also it was one of those kind of sad moments at the time. I was 28 years old and I'm like, oh no, it took me 28 years to hug someone for the first time in the way that I was supposed to be hugging them. So that was it. And that's when I knew. And it was just a fully clothed hug.
Can I share with you my my metaphor?
Please. I love metaphor. As a writer, I'm gonna geek out.
So I say, because one of the things that I talk about, it's not my favorite, but somewhat regularly because I think it's helpful to people's identity development, is that my experience was not that I hated sleeping with men. Don't foresee, that's not a go back thing for me, but it was like, it was another one. It's like if I only had wool clothing, I hate the way that wool feels on my skin, but if I'd never had anything else, then how do I know?
You
so you just learn to adapt, and then you find things that you like about it because you're there, whatever. The way that I've described this sexually is that like having sex with men felt like enjoying gas station pizza, right? Like it's good. It's the best I've had. I can recommend it. Casey's would be my favorite gas station pizza. And I wasn't wrong that I liked it. And I wasn't wrong to recommend it because in the realm of my experience, that was, what there was for me. And then in this analogy, then I go to Italy and I have pizza that doesn't even seem like it's in the same vein as a Casey's gas station pizza. And then also in this scenario, I discover I'm Italian. And so I don't need gas station pizza anymore if I'm Italian and I can have pizza from Italy at all times. But yeah, it's life altering in that way. And the thing that's sadder to me than discovering what is possible for your body and your heart, and even just like the intimacy that comes from, like, you walked around and cried for many hours. We can go directly to the emotional clit in queer relationships. That is powerful stuff. And then have sex about it. Like, that's crazy. So knowing that all of that is possible is sort of sad to arrive at, having not had the opportunity to do that. But the thing that I think about all the time is how many women specifically go without ever having that experience, either because they never discover their queerness or because the bar is so low for men in heterosexual relationships and there's so little expectation of them, which stunts them emotionally. Like, there's so much that goes on in heteronormativity that keep a lot of women from that experience regardless of their orientation. And I think that that's sad.
That's so sad, and it is so sad. And I think that that's kind of the crux of so much homophobia and transphobia in our society, is that people are so afraid to realize that something else exists, right? We are served on the platter a very easy option of fit the mold, fit the norm, participate in capitalism, get married, have your 2.5 children. And here you are being like a really quote unquote productive member of society. You should be happy, you should be fulfilled. And then queer people have, God bless us all, like, decided to completely erase any definition of what success looks like, because we are not defined by the controls and levers of capitalism, of heteronormativity. And that expansiveness, that opportunity to create anything that we want, scares the fuck out of people. And I think that fear can then easily be translated into that shut down, control, create binary of right and wrong. But it is so sad. And I do hope that people realize that there are so many options in terms of experiencing intimacy, connection over the course of their lives, and people deserve that.
Yeah. So I'm curious what else you have learned or named about yourself, because you talk about the expansiveness of queerness, which makes me think that you probably have done quite a bit of expansion and understanding yourself, or defining things about yourself, or undefining things about yourself. So what else has queerness brought to your understanding of you?
Yeah, no, absolutely. This is all still a learning and a becoming that's happening as we speak. So I went from monogamous relationship to monogamous relationship, both long-term, from being married to then Uhauling here and being with my most recent ex. And then all of a sudden was 33 years old, out and queer for the first time, on the apps for the first time, and navigating meeting people as my whole self. And I had so much to learn about kink, about power play, about all these different ways that we can be relating to each other in really cute, sexy, hot ways. And I think that I had unearthed so much about myself emotionally in my first long-term queer relationship. And I had yet to kind of explore what else existed in the physical sense of intimacy and how we relate to each other. And like, that's still happening, right? So I kind of entered the dating space being like, me, I'm a sub, right? Like, I'm a bottom, like because, right?
Yeah.
So there's a lot more to me.
I feel like I could have told you that.
I also have had to learn the language of astrology in real time as I've been coming into my queerness, because hello, that's just like our alphabet apparently. And as I learned the stereotypes of being a Capricorn, which I am, boy, is there a lot of like desire to have control, and I will leave it there.
Yeah. Well, and you can do that from any position. Curious what your moon and rising are, do you know?
I do know. So I am a Sagittarius moon and a Libra rising. So I have a lot of inner tumult and conflict. Capricorns, we want order, we want expectations, rules, and to succeed. Sagittarius, we be like jumping all over the place, leaping, adventuring. And then I got my little people pleaser Libra going on as well. But I think
Yeah, you got to see all the sides.
my Libra energy is what brings me back to abortion. Like we are the justice warriors for sure.
I used to think that I was a Libra rising, so I thought that I was like just about justice, and that explained my demeanor. But it turns out my mom was wrong about my birth time. I'm a Scorpio rising, so I'm not about justice. I just carry a weapon, and that's close.
You get to decide how you wield it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I do. So you're single for the first time in your adult life, really? Is that accurate?
I not only am single for the first time in my adult life, I am living alone for the first time in my adult life. I
love that for you.
So much. I feel like I am Benjamin buttoning life. Like I literally have gone absolutely in reverse. Any fully conscious human being might decide to like live alone, get to know themselves, date around, meet their person, eventually maybe form some kind of committed relationship with said person. I got married, got divorced, moved in with someone, and now am dating and alone for the first time. And it's definitely disorienting. It's like really forced me to sit with a lot of the narratives that I've told myself about myself of like, what does success look like in relationship in life? Like, what am I looking for? I really have like every ability to redefine and rediscover what it is that I'm going to try to build with someone in my life. And ends up, I don't know. And it's so fucking humbling to be 3 decades into living and realize for the first time, I have no idea.
I think it's awesome. I also think that divorced women are some of the fucking coolest because I think the narrative that I at least had around that is that it's like quitting, and then there's almost always a villain story about the woman in a male-female breakup, regardless of what occurred, or that she couldn't keep him or whatever. Man is a prize, and then your goal is, I don't know, all of this is gross to me. So a woman who will leave you, that's so hot to me. Like if she's unhappy, she'll leave. Hot. Also, so much agency in that. I was just on a workcation with a handful of friends, one in their 30s and the other two in their 40s, I think, but all, around this age group. And I was the only person who was partnered. And I was sitting there thinking how fucking awesome it was that none of these people are in complacent, shitty relationships. And what a flex. Like that's a bigger flex than keeping a because there's nothing under heteronormativity that says it's important to have a healthy relationship, just to have one at all. And nobody
and you better stay. Yep.
Yeah. My parents, well, my dad's just kind of doesn't pay much attention. He loves me, but he's like, whatever she does is fine. My mom was raised very fundamentalist. And so I think she loves me and she loves my partner, but I think sometimes struggles to like say the words. I don't know that her friends know I'm a lesbian unless they follow me on the internet. You know what I mean? It's just like, it's a little bit of a bridge too far for her, and she's supportive. I feel grateful for that. But the thing in that storyline that I find troubling from a cultural standpoint, not necessarily directed at my mother, is that there was no real concerns about me when I was in a relationship that was harmful to me. And all the like difficult to work through feelings came up when I was happy and gay.
Right. No, it really once again highlights how scared people are of people being their whole selves, and it's sad. I'm like getting stuck in my head about you saying that people in your family might not know that you're a lesbian unless they look you up online. And then it's so cool that anyone that meets you in Kansas City and in community, the first thing they know about you is that you're a lesbian.
Yeah. I also feel like if you know anything about lesbians, if you look at me, you're like, oh, that's a dyke. Like that's,
You got a neck tat. It's hot.
I have a neck tattoo. I also have a femme tattoo. I try to like point at people. You know what I mean? I'm like, hey, like in a gay way. Anyway, So you talk about building your family from scratch and chosen family. What does that mean to you?
Yeah, I have had the opportunity and such enormous gift to learn what queer family and chosen family looks like over the last several years. And they have showed the fuck up for me the last several months as I've been going through different life change. I was not someone who had an easy time making friends growing up or even keeping friends over time. I had kind of a few cute little playmates in elementary school and a couple of people that shared hobbies with me in high school. I made one long-term friend throughout childhood and college who is still my best friend to this day, but that's like one person that I've been able to kind of maintain over time. And it has been so special to meet queer people who are facing the same societal pressures, deep, deep, magical joys of being queer, and the expansiveness of the future and the road ahead of like, we get to design this together and for ourselves. That I am so lucky that I'm in this position right now where I'm like, oh, right, the people that are surrounding me right now are the people that are going to continue to be my flotation device for the rest of my life. And I'm grateful that it took me this long to really think about and consider like my priorities for building friendships, because they're there and I can count on them. And it's also been really special. I'm really fortunate to have nuclear family that's very supportive and has been there for me. Sure, they had some like kind of big question mark. What's going on with your divorce? What do you mean you didn't know that you were gay? Like kind of just general misunderstanding. But they really tried their hardest to come along with me on that journey. And I was really clear that that's the direction I'm going. You can come or you can't, but I'm going either way. And they've gotten on board and come with me. And the opportunity to integrate my now queer chosen family here in Kansas City and my parents, my sister, my friend from growing up, like that's been the biggest joy for me, is seeing how those worlds can actually be a part of the same big web of support and care. So yeah, I'm really fortunate for that. In terms of like building family, damn, like for queer people, we have to be so intentional if we decide that we want to have kids about how we do that, what that looks like, how we're getting pregnant, when we're getting pregnant. Can we afford getting pregnant? Like the systems are not set up to help us build families. And as I've kind of come in deeper and deeper to my own queerness and my understanding of just how hard queer people work to get pregnant if they want to get pregnant, it has totally reshaped and kind of bolstered the way that I think about people who also don't want to be pregnant. And that we really all should have every resource available to us to get pregnant if we want to have a family if we want to, and to not be pregnant if we don't want to.
Yeah, that feels so basic. I think something that I'm regularly reminding myself when I'm frustrated, not just with like politics, but the way that other people think, is that I'm from Lawrence. I don't know how much you know about Lawrence being a Kansas City person, but it's a super liberal place and a super progressive place. The main thing people say who live here is Lawrence thinks it's progressive, but they don't, which is what every progressive place sounds like, is like, here's the ways we need to keep pushing forward. And so I feel like I have always been sort of embedded in not just a liberal thinking culture, but in a activist culture that is also in opposition to everything around it in the state of Kansas. And so I've never known a world where we weren't advocating for everyone to decide if they were pregnant or not. It's tough to watch that online. And it was tough when I went to college in Nebraska, which is where I had my abortion in college. And the 3.5 hour drive is just full of anti-abortion posters or billboards, boots, bullets, baloney, and something else. That's a sign. And then it's abortions. Abortions are bad.
Personally, is when they're like, choose life, save a life. And they have what looks to be a 6-month-old infant smiling with a full set of teeth. I'm like,
yeah, it's like wearing a onesie in the womb.
No 6-month-old has all their chompers. Like, this is creepy. What's going on here?
No, do you know how any of the science works? Also, the ones that say your mom chose life. And I'm always laughing at that because I'm like, I'm someone's mom. I have a 17-year-old. I also chose an abortion. And she's very aware of that.
Yeah, absolutely. I know. People don't get that we are not just one thing, right? Like people who have abortions more often than not already have a kid. They are considering their existing living child when considering whether or not they want to have another pregnancy and have another kid. So yeah, there's so much misinformation and disinformation out there. And unfortunately, something that I've kind of come across the last several years as I've been simultaneously building my queer community and getting more deeply involved in my abortion advocacy work is queer people, although they are supportive of abortion access, I've kind of run into this weird thing where queer people are like, not my problem. Not my problem. I don't
because less likely to be doing that.
Right. And first of all, I just get a little frustrated in terms of the turfiness of it all. Like lesbians be having sex with people that make sperm sometimes. One thing that I love about queerness and that it's taught me is that we have a choice to show up for each other. We have a choice to be community centered, to be community driven, to know the people who surround us in our neighborhoods and decide that in the face of fascist bullshit, we're going to decide to stay alive and keep each other alive anyways. And it's like, okay, maybe you lesbian friend will not get pregnant, but your neighbor might. And don't you want to help them if they want to have an abortion? Like, don't you want to be that person that people can count on for information and support and resources? And so that's what I've been trying to really shape these information sessions around, of like, yeah, I'm a dyke. Yeah, I care about abortion. And here's actually why it's so important that we all know how to help each other and how to use abortion pills, whether it's for us or whether it's for someone else that we really love.
I had a sort of, I don't know that this is silly. I'm not finding the right adjective. I had a revelation that felt like it was right in front of me after this election, because I am primarily concerned about my daughter. You know, she's 17, so she also has a longer fertility window ahead of her. And I don't know where we're headed in terms of access. I am certain that I will be able to do whatever I need to for my daughter, and don't want it to be so challenging, right? And then I had a second thought process that was like, oh no, there's sexual assault, because I was thinking I'm counted out of that because I'm in my relationship. There's no pregnancies possible in my relationship. And this is, in theory, an indefinite relationship, right? So no problem for me. And then it's like, oh shit, no, that actually, as long as my body is capable of getting pregnant, then there is a possibility that I would be pregnant and have to carry it to term, because all sex isn't consensual. So that kind of hit me over the head after this election too, which is grim to think about, but that is the reality, and something that I don't think a lot of people who espouse pro-life ideologies think about. A lot of them will say, well, except in incest, except if it's a child, except if it's sexual assault. And that's not how abortion access works.
It's not. Yeah, unfortunately, as people create more and more exceptions or loopholes, what that's actually doing is just pushing more and more people away from getting the care that they need. But to your point about just the revelations that we continue to have over and over again about the reality of the world that we're facing, I think that it is such an invitation for people to kind of shed that, like, not my problem ideology. Yeah. We kind of are all each other's problem in a good way. I think that we're all connected. Our lives are inherently connected. And as we consider how to keep being like surviving queer members of our community and want to one day be queer elders, like, I know that's like the dream goal we all have, like, we want to be the queer elder. We really need to pause and consider, like, who taught me that I thought I could ever do this alone?
Right.
I can't. I think that, like, individualism is one of the greatest American lies, TM, that we were ever told. And our circumstances and our dreams and our pains, they're like all deeply interwoven into our fabric of community. And that means that it's our collective responsibility and our call to be educated and ready to care for each other through whatever might be coming our way.
Yeah, I agree. And I also think, just from like a really macro standpoint, that even billionaires should give a shit about how the rest of us commoners are, because eventually it's going to impact their lives if we're all struggling. Because there will be more violence, or there will be more fucking kids that people can't handle, or whatever. Like, if my neighbor's not well, whether or not I talk to my neighbor, it impacts me. And so even if you're totally selfish, the health of your community does determine how you're doing.
Yeah, totally.
Was it Marie Antoinette and the let them eat cake situation? That didn't go well for her.
Right.
You know, like, there are consequences to us individually when we don't look out for community.
That's right. That's right.
So you've been doing abortion advocacy for over a decade. What do you think have been the most major shifts you've seen, either in attitude towards abortion or access, or like, what are the most big changes you've noticed in that time?
Yeah, sure. So obviously the policy landscape has changed quite a lot. The legal landscape has changed a ton. When I started my work, I actually just hit my 9-year anniversary at my job last week, which is wild to think about. But when I started, we were heading into the first Trump administration. And that's really when so much of the vitriol around people who have abortions, especially people who have later abortions, was really normalized by that administration. There was just so much misinformation and disinformation about the safety of abortion, about why people have abortions, about providers of abortion care. Then we went into the lead up to the Dobbs decision. That was all very calculated and devised by the Christian right. This was decades in the making in terms of this picking away at abortion access and the legal landscape for abortion access. And it was kind of this trifecta of, how can we change the laws to get ready to make this banned in as many places as possible? How can we spread misinformation and disinformation about abortion to scare people about what abortion is and give them a false sense of what their options are? And then how can we actually like villainize people who have abortions and need abortions and make them look like the bad guy, make them look irresponsible, and make them look like they don't care about their families or their communities, that they're selfish. And that whole 3-part vision, I think, like came to this culmination at the Dobbs decision. So again, that's when Roe v. Wade was overturned by the Supreme Court. And that's when all of these trigger bans went into effect across the country, including in Missouri. That has gone back and forth and back and forth and back and forth so many times since then. But like legally, everything has changed a ton. On the flip side, I do think we've seen a shift in public understanding that abortion is a really key part of our healthcare. As we saw so many protesters show up around the first Trump administration, around Dobbs, around the second Trump administration, people do realize what's at stake here. And it's not just people's ability to decide if they can have an abortion or not and maintain their bodily autonomy. I think people are starting to try to make that dot connect to like, shoot, right, if I am really appalled when I hear a story about a pregnant woman who was unable to get the miscarriage care that she needed and she died as a result, right? These like horrific stories that we're hearing about maternal deaths in states with abortion bans. Oh, that is on purpose. That was devised. That was because of abortion bans that were trying to scare doctors from being able to intervene and provide care and really make people hesitate as to like, will I be safe if I show up at my hospital in my community if I live in a state with an abortion ban? All of that, I think, is shifting people's perspectives to realize that like this is a crisis, like this is dire and people are dying preventable deaths as a result. That blows, right? It's like, it's devastating, it's preventable. And that's why I'm really passionate about making sure that people have as much information as they can about their options so that whether they're facing a pregnancy that they don't want, or whether they are having a miscarriage and they're afraid that they won't be able to get the care that they need in their community, that they know that there are some options around self-managed care that exist. I do, if it's okay, I'd love to like kind of break down what self-managed care is.
Absolutely. And
Awesome.
like, what is the current legality of it?
Sure. So self-managed care in and of itself is queer. Queers have been at the margins of society and systems that were not built for us, including the healthcare system, forever, right? And so self-managed care has actually been a part of queer ancestry forever. And when we think about everything from HIV care to gender affirming care, we see like decades of examples of people sourcing and sharing and taking medications with community-based knowledge and support. So that is like not a new concept. Self-managed abortion in particular has a bad rap because of how it has just been perceived over time, right? Like way back before Roe, we're looking at like the 50s, the 60s, it looked really different. When people were self-managing their abortion, they were using methods that truly weren't safe. They were leading to sepsis, they were leading to folks bleeding, really dangerous amounts of blood. But in the meantime, we got the invention of medication abortion. So that came around, and we now have had decades and decades of research about these drugs. And we know that they're really, really safe. So medication abortion is usually administered using 2 different kinds of pills. One's called mifepristone and the other one's called misoprostol. And that's what's administered in clinics across the country right now. Like the Planned Parenthood in Overland Park, they're giving people mifepristone and misoprostol every day. But people, including queers, are really resourceful. And now there are lots of ways to get those pills in the comfort of your own home. If that feels like a more supportive experience for folks, just given the laws where people live, the identities that people have. We know that queer people don't always feel safe to present for care in places where they feel like their identity might not be affirmed, or if you just want to have your pets or your people with you during your abortion. So this is very, very, very safe. And in terms of the legality of self-managed abortion, that's such a good question. There are actually only a couple states in the entire country that specifically outlawed self-managed care. And so the methods by which people are getting abortion pills, there are a lot of great online resources, and I'm happy to like share some links after the fact, but Plan C Pills is a really wonderful organization that provides people with information about different ways that people might go about taking care of themselves. So the criminal threat is not defined in many states, that doesn't mean it's not happening. Unfortunately, anti-abortion folks will go to any extreme to punish people who are having abortions. And so when we've seen the few examples of people that have been criminalized for self-managing their care, they're not criminalized for getting pills. They're not criminalized for taking the pills. They are oftentimes criminalized for some kind of like child abuse charge or infanticide, things that have been like laws that have been twisted to specifically punish an individual in that circumstance.
You know, one of the things as you're talking that has like just really grinds my gears.
Tell me what grinds your gears.
It's my gears is how many men benefit from abortion and they're not out here advocating. Like it's just, and not just women, but AFAB people who can get pregnant are the ones who both have this burden of dealing with the care and also with, you know, if we're not going to continue the pregnancy to terminate it and then make sure that's available for us. Like we do all of that advocacy, and 100% of unwanted pregnancies also involve someone with sperm. And it just like, who benefits from not taking care of a child for at least 18 years via child support, if nothing less? Like the fuck? I think about that and the person who I got pregnant with when I had an abortion in college, and I'm not like pissed at him, but I'm like, do you know how often I'm saying it was me and how often you're never saying it was you?
Right.
Like, thanks for taking me to get a taco afterwards, but like, you're
and
welcome.
And the fact that like the rest of your life wasn't centered, right? Like there are infinite circumstances under which someone can get pregnant that are every shade of positive and negative, right?
Mhm.
Every shade of consenting and not consenting. And people obsess over that. Like, what's the reason? Why are they getting the abortion? Instead of looking towards the future and being like, oh, but what life does this person have ahead of them? What do they deserve? What life are they trying to build for themselves? What kind of community member are they trying to be? Like, those questions aren't asked, but people perseverate on the why instead of the what comes next.
We do that with everything with regard to women. I think the right reasons that pop up in my life all the time are my right reasons for exercising, which just makes me want to hit people in the face. Like I'm actually trying to get hemmed from behind. That's what I'm going for. I want to look like the Hulk. I have absolute aesthetic goals, and I'm 42 and I give a single fuck what anyone thinks about what I do with my body or if it has anything to do with gender expectations or the beauty myth or whatever. Just like kiss my ass. You know what I mean? But like the amount of things in my life, decisions that I make for myself that impact no other people, that then my motivations need to be pure around are just go fuck yourself. I'm not pure. I'm not trying to be. I'm not likable. And I'm sure I'm doing it all wrong. Why are we deciding this about women? And everything that you just described about things we could think about this person's future and what might be there for her are all things that we know about, and they come up when we're concerned about a man getting allegations of violence, of sexual violence specifically. So we do care about people's futures, just not women.
Yeah. No, it's devastating to like be able to see it that clearly. It's true.
Anyway, I hate it here. But it is one of the things I like about being queer is the like amount that you stumble upon those indoctrinated thought processes and just like immediately undo them and can talk to people about them. And I find that I less and less relate to straight people because of that. Because I feel like everything comes back to queerness. And if I'm talking like you and I have almost exclusively talked about queer things or related everything to queerness since we just met. And that feels really natural and normal and great for me. And if I have similar conversations with a straight person, that I'm like doing something at them.
Interesting. Right. Well, it's almost, I don't know. I've been thinking a lot about like, I read a lot of Adrienne Marie Brown and listen to whenever she's on any kind of podcast in the whole universe, and like her whole emergent strategies and like the way that we can learn so much about like queer ecology and how like the queer way of relating to the world is so much more natural, of like listening to the flows of how cells interact with each other and actually being in more like community-based ecosystems. And what you just described is like two queer people who are able to have like a symbiotic relationship and be following like the natural current of connection, versus when you say someone that's trying to like do something to someone or like put something on someone is this like unnatural force, right? And so I don't know. I think that there's so much that we have to be grateful for in terms of how natural and kind of ancient the ways that queer people are relating to each other have proven to be time and time again over time.
Yeah. And I think for me, there was so much of that that just felt easy and right. It was like I was like trying to be an engineer, but I should have been at art school. And so I didn't feel like I had to do a lot of like removing heteronormative ideas from my life, but rather like everything that happened in my more heteronormative life was me emasculating people just by trying to be the person I am. You know what I mean? Like everything that I did just didn't work and was somehow fucking up the whole system. And now I can just like exist, if
I
that
love
makes
that.
sense.
I'm glad that you're existing.
So, what are the main things that you want people to know about self-managed care and like myths you want to dispel and also places you would point them to? I know you said Plan C
Yeah,
that I think would
absolutely.
probably be a good idea to like stick in your notes app because like you said, if it's not you, it might be someone in your community, it might be your friend's kid, it could be anybody. This is the kind of information you don't want to be scrambling for when you need it.
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, I just want everyone to know how safe medication abortion is. It is, I think that people think it might be unsafe because of the myths that are circulating about people who have abortions, but there is study after study to show that when medication abortion is used in the way that it's meant to be administered, it has less side effects and complications than Tylenol, than Viagra. Imagine that, drugs that men love to use. And so the fear mongering that happens around abortion is always on purpose to prevent people from making decisions for their lives. The pills themselves, very safe, very effective. If someone was interested in utilizing the pills mifepristone and misoprostol, a person could swallow one mifepristone pill. They could wait 24 hours, and then they could put 4 misoprostol in their buccal cavities. So that's 2 on each side. In the actual gap between the cheek and the gums, that person would wait 30 minutes while those pills dissolve, swallow the remnants of the pills, and that's it. If a person wanted to just use misoprostol to self-manage their abortion, the person would put 4 pills in their buccal cavity again, so 2 pills on each side, wait 30 minutes while they dissolve, swallow the remnants. They then wait 3 hours, do that process again, 2 pills, wait 30 minutes and swallow. And then a last time, wait 3 hours, put 4 more pills, 2 pills on each side, swallow what's left. All of this, whether you're using the mifepristone and misoprostol or the misoprostol only method, is a really safe way that people can be using the pills that they get to complete a self-managed abortion. So those are WHO standard protocols for medication abortion. So the World Health Organization, they have deemed medication abortion as an essential medication that people should be able to have access to. And those protocols are publicly available on the WHO website. That is not anything special or illegal or private or secret. This is something that everyone across the world does have access to in terms of the appropriate and safe and effective way to use these pills. But people don't want us to know these things to be able to make decisions about our lives. I also would love folks to know that there are a lot of great resources available, like the miscarriage and abortion hotline. So this is a completely anonymous hotline that if people are self-managing any of their pregnancy care, whether they're self-managing abortion care, self-managing their miscarriage care, they can go to this website and have a live chat with a nurse or a physician. These are licensed medical providers who can answer any questions about, am I doing this right? Are the side effects that I'm having dangerous? Should I be presenting for follow-up care? Am I okay? So I love the miscarriage and abortion hotline. I know many of the physicians who run the hotline. They are friends of mine, and they are just the most amazing people dedicated to their communities' well-being and safety. And then last but not least, there's an awesome organization called If, When, How that runs the Repro Legal Helpline. This is, again, a place that people can call to really assess, like, what's my legal risk? If I'm considering self-managing my care, what do I need to know about the laws in my state? What do I need to know about the ways that the hospitals in my community are interpreting these laws, so that I can really just be informed about the decisions that I'm making with my life. And then if people feel that they are in any kind of criminal or legal threat, this same organization is willing to show up for folks and give them the resources they need to continue to stay safe. And then I will just self-promote that I host these more in-depth trainings and information sessions that gives people all the information that they might need to know about self-managed abortion, how it works, what to expect, what the side effects are like, how to know if it did or did not work, and then if someone is presenting for follow-up care, how to stay legally safe. I host these every month on Zoom, and I'm going to share the bit.ly information if people want to register for any of the upcoming trainings. It's bit.ly/abortionpillinfoshare to register. And I'll make sure that people have access to that after the fact too.
And just to reiterate, this is a good idea to do if you care about people having access to abortion and you want to be helpful to people in your community. So whether or not you're someone who is likely to or could get pregnant, this would be a great way that you could be useful in your community and help people in these circumstances. So it doesn't have to mean you're signing up to have an abortion or you expect to be in that situation. It's like just a good sort of community care. I got a doula certification just because I'm like, I don't know who's gonna need what, but I can be available for that. You know what I mean? Like having more skills for community, especially the darker it gets up top, the more important it feels to be helpful and open to how can I just contribute to more of us being okay.
That's exactly right. I think if the last few years have taught us anything, it's that the legal landscape is going to keep changing, right? Our government is going to keep doing really harmful things to us on the community level. But that doesn't leave us helpless. We do have opportunities to continue to show up for each other, to be creative, to be resilient. We have to be to keep living through these times and to like keep living rich lives in spite of all that bullshit. And yes, you're exactly right that this is just a way that we can help people live the lives that they want, no matter what's going on at the government or institutional level.
Yeah, amazing. Are you ready for a lightning round?
Let's do it.
Okay. What is your favorite part of being queer?
I love how hot queer people are. And I don't just mean physically, like our brains are so hot to me. People are obsessed with their hobbies. Queer people have just these like really amazing little obsessions. So yes, I love queer's hotness.
Yeah, I'm going to say physically as well. It's just so fun when you're like not like everything about heteronormativity encourages conformity. And so figuring out who you are outside of that just gets increasingly sexy.
I know. I've leaned so hard into maximalism the last few years. I mean, the bizarre tattoos, all the shit in my house, the colors. I'm like, I'm just a walking, talking Miss Frizzle, and I love it.
What's your favorite queer or queer-coded fictional character?
This is a little bit embarrassing, but this is a part of my root. I am convinced that Eliza Thornberry is one of us, and she definitely, like, her weirdness and curiosity, she really got me. I'm like, I'm into the Eliza Thornberry era.
Now, this is where we're a decade apart, but I have heard this before. The Thornberry root is not, you're not alone in that. So I can support you there. What is your favorite queer content right now? Like a podcast, a book, a TV show?
Sure. So I was just on vacation last week and I powered through Casey McQuiston's newest book, The Pairing. It was so queer. It was such great food writing. I think something else I love about queers is that we love food, and that combination of like hot, horny, queer travel food was just spot on for me. So if you're looking for your next easy beach read, The Pairing's amazing. And then I just started listening to Dean Spade's new podcast that accompanies his book, Love in a Fucked Up World. And his first guest on the pilot episode was Adrienne Marie Brown, and the two of them speaking together just really warmed my heart in terms of how we can be centering our care and love for each other in this really hard moment.
What is your favorite sapphic book ever? I'm curious.
Oh, this is not specifically sapphic coded, but it's definitely queer coded. I feel like it's like kind of our foundational text, but Faggots and Their Friends, it made me weep page to page, like something that moves me that much and makes me feel tied to our history is going to grab hold of me forever. So I'm gonna go with that. See, yeah.
It's one of the things that I like. I feel like it's sort of my Roman Empire in a way that might make me kind of annoying, but because of what I do and who I am, there's a lot of people around me who are discovering their queerness. And I just like sort of want to like go running to all of them with history books. And that also feels like gatekeeping or something. But there's something that feels really lonely about not grounding your identity in history. Like you get to be a part of this beautiful history that makes so much sense to me. And when I think about how dykes have shown up across history, I understand myself and where I go now in a totally different way. It makes right now less scary and just a little bit more fortified. And also none of this is new. Like none of the feelings about it are new. None of the issues around it are new. Speaking of, this is an important cue for you. In the year of our Lord 2025, what app are you having the most success on in terms of queer dating?
I have been a Hinge girly.
Okay.
Yes, I am on Field. I appreciate that that's more expansive and thinking about non-monogamy. But I mean, to be honest with you, Erin, I feel like I've just been pimping myself out on the apps. Like, I'm not sure
Okay.
if they're for me. I I I am someone who really vibes on like human connection and energy, and the surface level interactions that are happening on the apps are tiring. I am so tired of having the same like 2-line conversation and then things fizzling. So I'm ready to get creative about meeting people in real life.
Yeah, I heard. What do you wish you could tell your younger self that you know now?
I wish I could tell her that she was allowed to listen to the things that made her feel good and feel excited the whole time. That she was allowed to craft and create and make decisions around her intuition and her gut instinct the whole time, and that she was always going to have her own back. No one was going to abandon or desert her depending on her decisions because she was going to be there the whole time.
I love that. Where can people find you, and do you want them to?
Yeah, I would love that. I have a website that kind of guides folks to all of my different work, my Substack, my social media, other essays that I've written, and that's just kelseyrhodes.com. But I'm on Instagram at kelsey_dot.org. And my Substack is called Kelsey's Disco.
Of course it is. Can I tell you something I recently learned about divorced women before we go?
Please.
So there's some woman that got divorced and then did a bunch of research about it and wrote a book. Haven't read the book, did hear her on a podcast talking about it. And the thing that stuck out to me is that a lot of women don't get divorces because we end up sort of financially beholden to our relationships for a variety of reasons. But statistically, what happens is that in heteronormative heterosexual dynamics, when a woman gets a divorce, she struggles financially immediately. But then within 5 years, often out earns the former partner.
Damn.
So even financially, divorce benefits women, which feels like something they don't want us to know.
Live your life.
Yeah, it just takes a little while. And if you're like me, you're like busy having a second adolescence in there anyway. Who cares if you have a little bit less money while you're like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm pimping myself out on apps. You'll come out on top and you won't be miserable.
That's right. We are all making decisions to guide ourselves towards a much softer version of life. And that is priceless. And apparently
100%.
we're making bank along the way too. So I love
We
that
are.
stat.
And getting hotter.
And getting hotter.
Totally. Thank you for doing this with me.
Thank you, Erin. Thank you so much for everything you do for our queer community here in Kansas City.
Creep Show.